it's time for a little bit more of Future Friend by David Baddiel. Now, the last chapter we read was chapter 4, and it was only 3 pages long. Chapter 5 is a little bit longer, so we're going to give it a go. Now, this chapter is called Basic Regulation. Pip's mum and dad were scientists. They had once worked for the city government, trying to create inventions to help with the heat and the flooding of the viruses. But in the last few years, the city government had given up on that. Now they've spent the bulk of their money just redesigning buildings so that people could live their entire life indoors. The buildings had become taller and taller, and everything the people who lived in them needed was delivered by drones, which buzzed constantly around the high windows, dropping their packages off into chutes that tunnelled straight into every house unit. But Pip's mum and dad hadn't given up on inventing. They just did their work by themselves, which was why they were running out of crypto coin. Researching and experimenting at home, both of them still thought there was a way to make the outside world better, even though there wasn't much sign of that when you looked out of the window. On the day Pip was having her history lesson, Pip's mum and her dad, Ivan, at 256, #YY.3_7- were in the lab space. It was actually just the spare space in their house unit, but since no one ever came to stay, her parents had put all their science equipment in there. Sometimes the space went very dark, and then, through the small round window in the lab space door, you could see lots of lights twinkling on and off. Recently, Pip had noticed, and noticed again as she came into the main space, having finished her lesson, that her parents would go in there and not come out for hours, which was why Pip too had been doing so much of the housework. "Oh my days, what even is this?" asked Squeezy Paws. "It's Kit Beef Product 67. Pip, in the main space, looked over to the food space. Squeezy Paws was sitting by her bowl, staring up at Pip too. "Kit Beef Product 67 tastes like kitty litter. That I've weed and pooed on. I like kitty chunks." "Oh dear," said Pip too, blinking. "I'm afraid I have run a search through every available cat food, and Kit Beef Product 67 is the foodstuff recommended for a cat your size." "It isn't even made of real cows," said Squeezy Paws, sniffing her bowl unhappily. "Of course it's not," shouted Dag from his cube. "A cow is Chancellor of the Exchequer now, and a very good one she is too, in my opinion." "Yes, okay," said Squeezy Paws, "but meanwhile, you know I hate it." Pip too shook her head at the cat. "I do not know that. You have never told me." "Meow," said Squeezy Paws, which she sometimes still said, although always in a deadpan way, like someone saying something they don't really mean. "I must have told the real one then." At this, Pip too made a face. It seemed to Pip, looking through the other room, like an angry face. This confused and concerned her. She knew that one of the most basic rules written into Pip 2's core software was that a robo-clone never reacts angrily to anything said to it by a living creature. Pip came through to the food space. She bent down to the cat. "Please don't call me the real one in front of Pip 2, she whispered, glancing at Pip 2. "I don't think she likes it." Squeezy Paws looked up at Pip 2. I guess it does look kind of upset." "Shh," said Pip. "But yes, you did tell me about your food, and I said you should eat Kit Beef Product 67. Stop trying to trick Pip 2. Suddenly there was a loud bang from inside the lab. Pip looked over. "What's going on?" "It's okay," shouted Ivan. "Everything's fine," shouted Nina. But then they started to do a lot of coughing, and the smell round and the small round window went black. Pip 2 immediately ran over with a cloth and reached up to try and clean it, which was a bit silly because A, it wasn't dirt, it was smoke, and B, all the smoke was on the other side of the window. But Pip 2 was a robo-clone that needed upgrading. "Mum! Dad!" shouted Pip, trying to see past Pip 2. "You're not allowed in the lab space," said Pip 2, pushing her away. "I know, but..." Pip 2 pushed her again, quite roughly. Once more, Pip thought that it was really odd. Anger against humans were prohibited for a robo-clone, and of course, violence even more so. Pip tapped her G-glasses to try to mind-link with Pip 2 so she could figure out what was going on with the robo-clone. But just then, the lab space door opened and a huge cloud of black smoke billowed out. Pip's mum and dad stumbled into the main space, coughing and spluttering. Everything went very dark. "Pip, where are you?" shouted her mum. "Here," shouted Pip. "OK," she said, "I've got you." "Come this way," shouted her dad. "Don't worry, we'll just go and sit in another space and wait for the smoke to clear." "Where will it go? Out of the window?" said Nina. "Obviously not. We're not allowed to open them. Up the ventilation shafts. Meanwhile, let's get the pets and lock ourselves in the pod space." Scrabbling in the smoke, they made their way out of the main space and into Nina and Ivan's pod space and shut the door. "OK, good. Everyone here? Dag?" "Yes." Squeezy paws. "Meow." "Pip?" "I've got Pip," said Nina, who was still holding her hand. "Yes, I'm here," said Pip. And Nina and Ivan were reassured because it certainly sounded like Pip. That's the end of chapter 5. And there's the picture at the end.